Some players in FPL are expensive because they're very good. Some players in FPL are very cheap because they're awful. But some players are very cheap because FPL made a mistake. Disclaimer, I am not an expert. This is just my opinion. We are back once again talking about FPL despite it being light years away. You know, we just can't get enough, can we, guys? We are first going to look at 3 underpriced defenders, 3 underpriced midfielders, and you guessed it, 3 underpriced forwards. These are also in no particular order, top to bottom, bottom to top, it doesn't matter. I value these guys all the same, and these aren't necessarily great picks in game week 1, even though most players here are good to own in game week 1. They're not in this video because they're good in game week 1. They're in the video because they should be more expensive. Mosquera up at the top is temporary. He's 5.5 million starting in the Arsenal backline while Saliba is out injured, which is just way too good value. I've talked about it way too much in pre-season. The Arsenal defensive numbers are way too good. I'm going to say something I said a couple videos ago. 0.72 expected goals conceded per game for Arsenal is ridiculous. Liverpool are second with 1.25 expected goals conceded, which is a huge difference, especially when you consider Bournemouth were the worst club out of every team in the league who stayed up, and they had 1.5 expected goals conceded per game. That's a 0.25 difference between second and 20th, and a 0.53 difference between first and second. Arsenal are next level, with or without Saliba. Now, Jeremy Jacquet not played a single game in the Premier League, but starting in that Liverpool defence, he's only 5 million. And I did just mention their defence was one of the best in the league last season. I'd put them top 3 bare minimum. They didn't keep as many clean sheets as they should have. Hopefully, now Slot is gone and Iriola is in, their defence could become even stronger, because that way Jacquet would be an absolute steal. He looks to be starting alongside Van Dijk. If Liverpool do sign another centre-back, then Jacquet may actually be quite bad, but I don't see that happening, to be honest. It looks like he is a lock in that starting 11, but I don't want to jinx him too much. Things could change. They could sign another centre-back. Not sure how he'll do with defensive contributions and goal involvements, but he probably won't be as good as Van Dijk. We then have Gavardio, who is here purely because of what Maresca said. He called Gavardio, Phil Foden and Haaland vital or central pillars to their team this season, which leads me and many others to believe that Gavardio will be starting regularly in that Man City defence for only 5.5 million. He's also a really good player for goal involvements as a defender. There are other good options, guys. You've got Gahey, Matheus Nunes, O'Reilly, all really good defender options, but they all cost more than Gavardio, which is where Gavardio's unique selling point is. At 5.5 million, if he is starting regularly, he is no doubt a good option, but Maresca could be lying. He could be playing mind games like Pep, and if Gavardio isn't starting every game, then he actually becomes an awful FPL asset at 5.5 million. So let's keep an eye on it, see how they're doing in pre-season. Morgan Rogers is next. Many people will agree with me when I say he is underpriced, but there's a lot of unknown here, right? Morgan Rogers is playing for a new club. This new club also has a new manager. How are they going to line up? How are they going to perform? Guys, we don't know. Anyone who says they know is a liar, okay? Don't listen to him. The good thing about Rodgers, though, is that rotation risk isn't a problem for him. We saw it at Aston Villa. When Aston Villa had 3 games in 1 week, Morgan Rogers was playing the full 90 of every single one. Guy is an absolute machine, right? Underlying data, not amazing, but it's also not bad. And we could see it improve at Chelsea because Chelsea are a much stronger attack than Aston Villa. You don't need me to tell you that. So yeah, I don't know exactly how he'll get on, but I'm assuming 7.5 million was probably a little too cheap. Then we have Szoboszlai, who is only 7 million and has way too many routes to points to only cost 7 million. He can play many different positions and is second in line for penalties. Now, being second in line for penalties isn't normally anything to shout about, but he's second to Isak. Isak was very injury prone last season. Well, I say injury prone. He's always been injury prone, but he was injured quite a lot last season, and Salah was taking penalties ahead of him anyway. This season, if Isak gets injured or Isak becomes an early sub, Szoboszlai, who averages 90 minutes per appearance, will be taking those penalties. So being second in line here isn't such a bad thing. As to where he'll play at the beginning of the season, well, he could play right wing over Chiesa, he could sit in midfield, he could even play right back. Either way, each position he plays, he's got different avenues to go down to get points. Well, he's on corners and free kicks, which means regardless of where he plays, he's always going to do well with those. He has DEFCON potential when he plays as a fullback or in the midfield, and he can get open play goal involvements when he plays as a right wing. Guys, make sure you pick him up. If I was to say who was the best value player in FPL, so Bosley would be in my top 2. There's a forward I simply cannot put him above. We then have Phil Foden, who is here for the same reasons as Gvardiol. If Phil Foden is starting in that Man City attack for 7 million, he is a lock in my team, no doubt. Where will he play though? Guys, Man City have many good winger options. Maresca may play a different formation to Pep. Is Foden going to be sort of a centre mid, advanced centre mid, centre attacking mid, left winger, false 9? Guys, I don't know. Maresca could do anything. He's not going to play exactly the same way he did at Chelsea because good managers adapt and they adapt to the players they have, the formation, the tactics, everything like that. So he may not play the exact same way. So I don't actually know where Phil Foden will play if he is starting every game. But either way, 7 million for someone who's going to be at least kind of attacking in that Man City attack is a very good option. And his underlying data here, it ain't half bad. We all remember that purple patch where he got 4 double-digit hauls in 4 games. I owned him for all 4, by the way, not to flex or anything. The issue is, if Maresca is lying and Foden does become a rotation risk, he's not really worth owning because there's good City midfielders. If Shirky's not a rotation risk, amazing to own. Semenyo, Doku, and obviously you're going to have a lot of budget invested in Haaland already. So we'll see how it goes. We'll have to look at them in pre-season because Man City is one of those very interesting teams where you need to pick the right players because they're a great attack and they have a good fixture run. If you get it right, you could pull ahead very early. Okay, onto the forwards, and I have a complaint. Right, why is João Pedro 7.5 million? Second for non-penalty expected goals per 90 last season. Why is he less than 8 million? It doesn't make any sense to me. He's got no competition up front. I mean, yeah, Chelsea are signing Danny Welbeck. Do you really think Welbeck's going to start over João Pedro? No, of course he's not. João Pedro is a ridiculous player. He was winning loads of penalties last season. So, the lucky with assists bit I put in the last season notes technically weren't that lucky because he was winning penalties, but it's not something you can really say is sustainable. Either way, yeah, this guy, way too cheap at 7.5 million. In my opinion, the best value player in the game. Chelsea don't have the best run of games. I mean, their fixtures are all right, but they do have to play away to Arsenal in game week 3, which is awful. So if you are picking those players, try not to load up on too many Chelsea attackers or have some bench cover for game week 3. Below him, we have someone else who is also crazy good value. This man was 3rd for expected goals in the league last season. 3rd. Fair enough, Leeds had 8 penalties, but he was 6th for non-penalty expected goals. Why did they price him at 6 million? Fair enough. The post-shot expected goals is awful. He was a bad finisher, and he's been this way for quite a while. It's not like he just had one off season. He's always been fairly poor at finishing. I'm not going to beat around the bush. But 6 million? I don't know, man. You could have at least priced him at 6.5. I think that was way too cheap. Especially with Leeds getting stronger. This man now has Harry Wilson to win penalties for him, or whipping corners for him, or crosses. Calvert-Lewin is getting even more threatening because Leeds are strengthening everywhere else around him. If they want to strengthen the striker position, then obviously Calvert-Lewin will be sacked to the bench and he will be an awful FPL pick. But right now, yeah, he's looking amazing. I couldn't think of many forward options. These two, incredibly underpriced. The rest, I all think are fairly priced, to be completely honest. Anyway, guys, those are the players I believe are most underpriced. I couldn't really find anyone else that was that underpriced, and even Gvardiol and Foden was sort of asterisks around them because I'm basing it purely off what Maresca said, and he could have been lying. It could be utter BS. We don't know. But let me know what you agree with in the comments. Let me know what you disagree with. Thank you all for watching if you made it this far, and I will see you all in the next video.